I want to talk about episode 7. This is your directorial debut. And I was telling you before the show, when I'm watching it, and I text this to Connor, the producer of this show, as I was watching it, I'm like, this is crazy. It looks, it feels and looks totally different than every other episode. A different pace, different look, different styles of cinematography. It's a fever dream. It's everything. It's all in one. I absolutely loved it. And it was such a great point in the series to have such a diversion. It was perfect. It was the perfect episode at the perfect time. But I want to hear from you because you directed this thing. It does look totally different. Pace, visuals, all of it. How much of that change was your input, or was it scripted that way?
Well, okay. So this is like a two-part question in a way, because I feel like I'm just going to talk about the cinematography aspect of it
Sure.
first and then get more into the story stuff. But because I shot all of season 1 and like I really felt like I knew the language of Severance very, very well, it was easier for me to step away from it than I think like it would have to be Ben or me who could do that kind of thing. You couldn't really have another director come in and be like, I'm gonna like do things different. Like no one would have done that or taken that risk. But because I feel like it's like such a part of me now, it was the next step, and it's a new world. It's something, the whole show is shot through Mark's perspective, especially in season 1. And when I say that, I mean, we feel the world as Mark does. And then this episode, we had to show the world before he decided to stop feeling. So it had to feel different, but then it had to still feel like it's like within this umbrella of Severance, which was a very big challenge and was a little bit scary and daunting, but I kind of just trusted my intuition on it. Then with regards to the storytelling of it, I got to work with Mark Friedman, who's one of the writers of Severance, and he and I had a really beautiful process. And I'm very grateful I got to work with him because we got to really communicate and talk through things. And he included me in these transitions and how this episode could have a whole other flow. I remember him early on saying, I'm not sure if I remember the exact words he used, but this is what stuck in my mind. He's like, I want it to have like a whirlwind-like feeling, or like it'd be that kind of experience. And I really held on to that because I think this episode could have been scary. I think if people were really worried about like, making things perfect in within a show and containing things, I don't think this episode would have be what it is. But because people trusted us, we were able to explore things and explore bigger themes, and I feel like that was really important for the show also in general, to like we're stepping outside of what Severance is. But I mean, I hope we didn't go too far that people think it's like a completely different show, but it's a new world, it's a new character's, it's a new character's perspective. But working with him was a blessing because I felt like he protected me in a way. I also feel like Ben protected me in a way. And that kind of gave way to this, which is something I'm very proud of because I was really afraid of directing.
Why? What were you afraid of?
I'm someone who always, if I did something and it wasn't perfect, I would be really ashamed of it. And I think that I always put myself in situations where I couldn't really be vulnerable, and I felt more protected in the world of cinematography because I didn't own the material. It was like, yeah, there's a big part of me in it, but, I'm not signing it. And then I have so much respect, even like more now, for directors of like what they put themselves through. It's a very hard thing to do. And I never wanted to put myself in a situation that for me felt dangerous. But there was never going to be a better opportunity than this for me to try it. And then when it came around, I realized why it was coming around, and I decided to face those parts of myself that I had like hidden from for so long because I literally forgot it in my conscious mind. And the journey that like Mark goes through in Severance, like I have my own version of it, where I had to reconnect with things that were within me that were locked away. And then so it was so funny that I got to do this episode. But yeah, I was just afraid of critique and people not liking it. And you know what? Like I've had to just let go, especially because it's like a specific, it's a very intense episode. So yeah, there's going to be people who don't like it, but I think it's for the fans, and I hope that they like it.
It's for everyone. It is so good. Like I can't, it's, you know, it's interesting to me to have these conversations because I love it when people talk about their vulnerabilities when they're working at such a high level because, you know, people like me, the listeners of the show, were like, you are there. You are where everybody like dreams and hopes to be. And then to hear that you have the same vulnerabilities that everybody does is awesome. And I think it's inspiring. So thanks for being honest about that. I'm curious now, after being the cinematographer, director of photography under so many directors, do you think that your communication as a director with a cinematographer was maybe better, more seamless, a little bit more descriptive because you know what it's like on the other end?
No, I think it was hard. So I I shot most of the episode, but the memories I didn't shoot. And there was like a reason for that. I just wanted to be really present with the actors as much as possible in that moment. But I think it was hard. But I had the chance to work with Max Goldman, who's amazing, and I could not have imagined a better partner because his mindset was, I understand that you're a cinematographer. I understand the things you're going to be focusing on, and I'm here for you. And yeah, I felt very held, and I felt like I could say, "Oh my gosh, that's a little bright," like, or like I feel like I wouldn't, and he would be like, "No problem." You know, he was understanding at like another level because I don't know that I've like found that perfect way to be yet. Um, I think I will. I'm excited to work with cinematographers more. I'm excited to like really push them because I feel like I push myself to a very like I push myself a lot in life, and I want to push myself as a director. I want to like take big risks, and I want the cinematographer to be like, okay, like this is something I'm going to go outside of my comfort zone, and I'm excited to go on that journey with people. And I feel like now I'll be better equipped to do it because I've like fully like lived this experience. But in the moment, I was so fearful, you know, and definitely like trying to protect this thing as much as I could. But there was this Seven taught me that you need to release control to really create as well. Like there is this kind of this episode was like Severance in general. I think it's a more powerful thing than anyone really understands. It makes itself in a weird way. It kind of decides when things are right and when things are wrong for it. There's a lot of synchronicity and serendipity in this episode when we work on it. And Seven was like kept having these like little miracles happen. Like I would think that for scheduling something wouldn't work out and then I'd be frustrated because I'm like, oh, that's going to hurt the episode. But then in the end, whatever happened made it better for it. You know, it just things kept working out the way they needed to. And I had to remember that.
So for Seven, you're directing it, and you said you're also shooting. Are you shooting? I guess what's the ratio? Are you shooting all the Lumen stuff? Are you shooting
I
Mark's
shot all the
house,
human stuff and the Mark stuff. So what I didn't shoot was the memories,
the flashback stuff? Okay,
the
yeah.
flashback stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, let's talk about the flashbacks because this is, I mean, I don't remember anything like this in season one, and there isn't anything like this in season two. I feel like it has a completely different look. It feels almost like, I mean, did you shoot it on film? What was, how do you describe the look of the flashbacks?
Well, originally, when we were talking about what these flashbacks would look like, I knew that film was kind of the only way to do it without forcing anything.
Hmm.
That all we'd have to do, it would be the natural thing to do. You know, if you want to evoke nostalgia, if you want to evoke memory, just like with a medium, it's that, right?
Yeah. Without forcing it in like the grade you're saying, like
The
adding
grade and the
effects and grains and
lighting,
stuff. Yeah.
anything, you know, of like having to remind ourselves we are doing a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also wanted a different feeling on set, in terms of the crew and the vibe and like just making it feel like a different experience for everyone. Because we did want it to feel like a different film, but at the same time, it still had to fit in there. So that was like a very tricky balance that I wouldn't really know until we saw it at the end if it was going to work or not. I think it did, but yeah, and it was more single camera stuff, just less coverage. Like I think one thing was looking at scenes, and we do a lot of coverage in Severance. There's a lot of shots. Like if you watch it, there's a lot of break. Like and
Mm.
that's what makes it amazing as well, is like the volume of things that you're seeing. But this was like, okay, well, we have one shot on Adam, one shot on Deechin, and maybe we'll do something a little bit wider here. But no, I wouldn't shoot scenes with like, okay, we're doing the wide shot and then we're doing like, it was just like we have like this shot and that shot, and or we're doing like this one shot going around here and that's it. And there was no safety. I never had like safeties. Um, I just really committed. I didn't have time for safeties also, but it's like I really committed to it and had prepped this episode fully to to like flush it out. But the flashbacks also, they were shot in my house that I was living in.
No
So I
way.
had a I was renting this house out, and with amazing owners. I'm so glad they let us do this. But
Can I live here? Also, can we shoot an episode of Severance?
no, this house was a gem. It was truly like a gift. And when I was describing what I wanted their apartment to feel like, because I thought it was going to be in an apartment at first, the production designer at one point was like, "Jess, you realize?" Because I had invited a lot of people over to this house to just, it's such a beautiful place. It's actually close to other locations that we shoot at. And he had seen it, and then he said, "You realize we're going to be shooting your episode in your house?" And I was like, "What?" And then I realized at that moment, I'm like, oh God, he's right. I'm like, I have to deal with this now. Like, but what was beautiful is I would, I'd make a lot of fires in this house. Like there was beautiful fireplaces, and I would sit by the fire and like listen to the music that's like in the episode, and also music that Teddy composed in season one. And I would just think of these sequences and these shots. And I remember like thinking about the Gemma running sequence when she runs away to go to the elevator. I was in front of the fireplace, standing up and just like visualizing it. But being able to be in the house and knowing how the sun moved, and also like being able to shoot these moments of like snow melting in like these time lapses was only possible because I had a Bolex in the house that my gaffer Kurt lent to me. And I was like shooting these like time lapses every day. I'd like wake up and like do some frames and go to work, go shoot Severance, and then come back and like shoot more because it was blue hour. I'm like, okay. And I knew I needed to show time, the passage of time, which is a big challenge in these flashbacks, to show the evolution of, I mean, I'm going more into like story stuff, but
That's
it's
fine.
it's these 5 years of these people, that you, and their whole love story that you have to show in not that much screen time. Like it deserves its own episode, but like we were never going to get to do that within this season. And I just wanted to just people to understand, if you break it down, you can really see the evolution of this couple and like how life affects people and all of these things. But you had to understand that this wasn't happening like one right after the other, and that like sequence, that big time lapse sequence, wasn't scripted. um it was, yeah, it wasn't, it was kind of, it was just written in as like a transition, but it wasn't all the images that you see within it. And then we pushed a lot during the shoot to get extra stuff. Ben even came to set and was shooting with the Bolex with Adam and Deechin outside while we were prepping other stuff. And he was really helpful with that. But everything we ended up doing, we used.
I want to talk about another element of episode 7 that I don't see anywhere else in the series is these transitions. They're incredible and so well crafted and so thought out. And it sort of feels like it feels inspired by the episode 1 hallway run in the way that you're making these interesting transitions, but it's transitioning across time and space. Like it's pretty amazing. I'd love to just kind of hear about, first of all, story-wise, your rationale for these transitions, and then how you achieve them.
Well, time and space is, you're hitting the nail on the head with that. Like, it's something I like to explore within my own life a lot, and I have a perspective on it that is mine. But I definitely think we can live outside of it. And this episode, one of the reasons I gravitated towards it was because I could explore these bigger themes.
Mm.
And it's funny, like having working like 15 years as a cinematographer, I really got to like craft camera work and understand how it's not, the word's not the camera, it's just the medium, like the
Mm.
potential of this medium. um and I There are references. There, it's built into. Yes, they don't. You said they don't. It's not like the other episodes, but at the same time, it is also. You know, so you're saying like it's not, but it is like episode one as well. But there's the thing that let me do this because obviously we didn't have any of this kind of like language in the show. I could not have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, explorations of like the running sequence and episode one is one thing, but then all the glitches is also another thing. You know,
Mm.
what I mean by the glitches are these like transitions that you know, when we're seeing in the end of episode three and
Yeah.
six is a lot of it as well, where the worlds are melting together because it's like his innie consciousness and his outie consciousness are starting to blur. But I think we're taking it one step further in this episode and talking about the human connection and we fall into his subconscious into this other space where you know time doesn't really exist and I believe that you kind of access bigger things in that space or bigger is not the word like sometimes it's really hard to use the English language to talk about this stuff
Mm. Mm.
but you're going somewhere where time no longer exists and where I think people can connect on more of like a vibration kind of level and moving, you know, when you're in a dream and you're having like a lucid dream and like the world changes around you. Like I feel like that's what I was trying to evoke.
Mhm.
The sequence in the hallway when we go from Gemma sitting on the couch and we're in this dark hallway. It's like this time lapse that goes up and finds Mark on his floor. Like that to me was a nightmare. Like it's the nightmare of the subconscious. There are parts of your brain where you like store these like darker moments and you can transition from that to another thing. They always like it was an exploration of what that feels like, but on camera, you know? Like I'm trying to make a resume of something that's really big, but because it's like you can take every transition and have a conversation about it, and they're all different. They all express very different things.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the broader conversation about is not necessarily each individual transition and what the value of it is, but the value in transitions in that episode at all. Like the fact that we have to weave in and out of Lumen, Mark's house, the flashbacks, like this is the first time and maybe the only time in season two, I don't know, it's not all out yet, where we are spanning such a wide range.
Yeah, it's the connectivity thing, I think. It's like also like how does love work? How does it hold up? What is love? And like where these people who love each other, how they are connected through like a stronger force in a way. I mean, the show does speak about that, especially this season. And it's three timelines that are different. There's their memories, there's Gemma's timeline, and then there's Gemma's timeline on the testing floor, and then there's Mark's timeline, and how they're all like happening at once in a way, you know, like
Mm.
they're all there is no moment more important than the other. They're all there, you know.
Did you enjoy directing?
I did.
So more directing in your future, do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. Just out of curiosity, how are you feeling like the night before your first shoot for your episode? Like directorial debut, the night before, like what are you feeling like? I get nervous before just any regular shoot. I can imagine something where you are responsible for an entire episode. Like this is your moment. How
Yeah.
do you feel the night before?
I was extremely nervous for like the first 2 weeks of shooting. Um, and like day two, we're shooting the end of like the last frames of the episode. Day two of me directing, it's like Adam on the couch, you know. But I was very nervous. I felt sick every morning. But the thing that like got me through is the crew and the support I also got from Ben and Mark, the writer. Like everyone, every time I was just I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I don't feel good. But like even Katie Pruitt, who produced and AD'd this as well, she would just look at me like, "You got this. Like you got," and everyone would just say that, and I'm like, "Okay, I have to stop listening to the voices in my head because they've been limiting me my whole life."
Mm.
So it was just moving through that physical feeling within my body and not let it affect me like it has in the past.
It's just so wild, the timing of you kind of becoming transitioning from cinematographer to director. Not that you're not shooting anymore, and you did shoot some of this, but just that big moment for you, that transitional point for you, and this episode. It's like the synergy is crazy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fate involved. I chose this episode, at least I thought I chose it. It was a little bit different when I read the synopsis. It wasn't this, it was less emotional. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I can handle this. It's less emotional. And the more we moved forward, the more emotional it got. And the more I was like, crap, I need to tap into the things I don't tap into in my life. And I had specific things that happened in my life before accepting to do this that motivated me to do it.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's fate.
I love that. And do you think that directing this episode has made you a better cinematographer?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, it's made me realize that I want to direct and that I will have to let go of cinematography because I have to believe in myself. And, to direct, you need to believe in yourself. You need to set yourself up. You need to invest in you, which for me was not something I wanted to do before or was considering. And now, like, that's what I'm trying to focus on.